Steve Adubato here. More importantly, it is my pleasure to introduce our good friend, Dr. Nancy Blattner, who is the president of Caldwell University and recently appointed to something called the College Affordability Study Commission, which is?
It's a group of 10 people from the state, Steve, who have been appointed for the next 18 months to take a look at how we can make higher education more affordable to the citizens of New Jersey. And the commission is broadly representative. In fact, there's a student member, there's a faculty member, and there are multiple presidents and other representatives of both the 4- and the 2-year sector, as well as private and public institutions of higher education.
Now, Nancy joined us for a 4-person panel on Caucus, New Jersey. We talked about this whole question of affordability and what to do about it. I know there's no easy answer to this, Nancy, and we've talked many times on Capitol Report, my colleague Raphael Piorman as well. The main reasons why college has become so difficult to afford in New Jersey, now it's a problem across the nation, but particularly in New Jersey, why?
I think that there are costs that are fixed for many of us in higher education that are simply impossible to tackle, and I know that people don't want to hear that. But when I think about my own budget, for example, somewhere between 75% and 90% of my operational budget is fixed costs. I can't do anything with them. So when I look at salaries and benefits, when I look at deferred maintenance, when I look at debt service, contracts that I have with food service providers, landscaping, facilities, you name it, those don't go down. They go up every year. And so those are very difficult if we're also trying to pay some kind of a wage that's going to allow people to live in the state, because this is a very high area to live in, as you well know. So I think that's one of the issues. I think also that there's an expectation that higher education is affordable to everyone, and sometimes people don't see that they need to also begin to save for higher education. And, you know, coming from a family where savings was very much part of how I was raised, I think that that's important as well. I'm not suggesting that the middle class hasn't been particularly hard hit with the economic downturn, and that rebound hasn't really happened yet for many families. Their homes are still underwater.
Right.
So it's just a difficult confluence of perfect storm factors, I guess I would say.
Now, this group that's getting together, at the time of our conversation, going into the summer of 2015, you've only met one time.
That's correct.
What would you say the primary goals of this commission are?
I think that we need to vet all possible ways that we can work collaboratively as representatives of higher education to find solutions to keep the costs from escalating, and if possible to pull back costs. And I think those are worthwhile conversations to have. And it's not just the 10 of us who are talking. First of all, we're having a variety of open forums that will be hosted throughout the state so that people who have interests in higher education and experience and knowledge can share, and those people will be invited, as well as there will be open forums. Secondly, we're looking really at what other states have done, because I think there are 23 states now that have had comparable commissions on affordability of higher education. Pennsylvania, Maine, Illinois, Oregon, Texas.
National problem?
It's a national problem. That's the point exactly. And so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. What we need to do is learn from these other commissions to determine what they've been able to do successfully. And frankly, from having read now hundreds of pages of these documents, most of them, if at all, are in pilot stages of projects that are going to take many years to determine whether they can be successful at tackling this problem, because there's not a simple solution, or someone would have already found it.
But Nancy, does it ultimately take a massive infusion of public money, of taxpayer dollars, to do any of the stuff you're talking about?
I think the answer is yes.
In any states as you look at, big public money has been put into this.
Yes, or it's projected to be required in order for a system to be successful. So, for example, lots of states have looked at a pilot that's being contemplated for the fall by Oregon. We're all waiting to see if it happens. But this is a pilot that would allow students to go to school at public institutions of higher education for free, and they would then pay back based on their income for 20 or 25 years. And there are so many conditions and so many problems with the system that I'm not sure if the pilot, which really impacts a very small number of Oregonians, will even be put into place in the fall. But ultimately, all of these projects that I've read about require huge infusions of money, sometimes up to $1 billion.
$1 billion?
Can be up to $1 billion a year. and it's in addition to what's already being expended on higher education, not in place of. So the goal would be that over 20 or 25 years, when people have graduated and they're beginning to pay back and they're paying back substantially, that then that money would fund the next generation of college students, if you will. But no one knows if that's going to be successful because there are so many factors that simply can't be controlled at this point.
Before I let you out of here, Nancy, for those watching, for those not watching, for those who think about college and say, nah, I don't think it's worth it. I think I can do well. I think I can do fine without a college education, and it's so ridiculously expensive, I don't think I need it, you say?
That's a big mistake. And I will say that for two reasons. One, to the individual, the return on investment is enormous. Every study I've read suggests that people who have a college education earn anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million more over the course of a lifetime than their counterparts who have only a high school education. But secondly, they become better citizens. And if we want people to stay in our state, there's a tremendous public return on investment. These are people who vote. They are more civically engaged in that they volunteer and perform service. I've even read studies that say they engage in healthier lifestyles, which takes some of the burden away from our already overburdened medical services system. So I think we want people to be educated. I've also read that by 2020, there are going to be 55 million new job openings in the United States, and 65% of those are going to require, beyond a high school education, a college degree. We anticipate, I've read, 5 million shortfall in being able to meet those openings. So it's critical for our country, it's critical for our state, and it's certainly important for the individual, him or herself, to have a college education.
Nancy, every time you come and join us, I say this to you, and I'll say it again. We learn something important every time. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this. Thanks, Nancy.